All right, everyone, this is the technology orientation for second and third grade parents. We're going to take you through the hardware, aka the Chromebooks, and some of the features and things that are available for students as a part of their learning. Through some of the systems we've set up on the back end as well to support students and filter some of the internet that they have access to now. I will give Kara and Allison a chance to talk you through some of the day-to-day pieces. And then towards the end, I'd like to talk a little bit about the GoGuardian parent app, which you all should have received an email about this morning. So my name is Tatiana Griffin. I'm the Director of Technology Innovation. I've spent about, I've been working in schools full-time since about 2012 when I moved to the Bay Area. Prior to that, I was working in education research, immersive reality, and researching how gaming or game frameworks can be used to get kids excited about learning. And I was in that space for about 6 years, got 2 masters there. And I also worked in video game sound design for a couple years prior to that. All throughout, I have a recording studio in Oakland where I've got my turntables and a lot of vinyl and a bunch of synthesizers and gear, and I'm also a singer. So I like to balance all the tech out in different ways, but today we're going to focus on your children. So as you may have seen in the parent tech orientations, we are going to have a couple of back-to-back sessions. So if you have children in multiple grade levels, be sure to join or at least do watch the recording for the different sessions, because basically in K and first we have iPads, second through fifth we have Chromebooks, and then sixth through eighth we have MacBook Airs. So different devices will have different features. So this is, I know how I'm feeling, and I'm sure all of you, as you're balancing parenthood, being homeschooling teachers, supporting your teachers, and still working your jobs and trying to have somewhat of a social life or work-life balance. I just want to acknowledge that I know we're managing a lot here, whether you're teachers, parents, or students. And this is where I'd like for us to get to. So I'm going to try and kind of, run through some things, but my goal is mindfulness and staying centered and just coming to things from a place of peace, because there's so much around us that we can't control. So again, we're going to focus on in the tech training, what's new, what's changed. I'm going to just glide over this slide because I'll be sharing this presentation. But this is just on a high level. We're focusing on navigation, how we're keeping kids safe at different grade levels. And then we'll get into a little bit of troubleshooting and looking at some of the things you might be encountering as a tech support person at home. And then we'll talk a little bit about kind of minimizing distractions as a parent outside of the tech sphere. So this is our high-level agenda. They're going to start off by being the student, and we'll run through a couple of things on the computer. Then we'll talk about Seesaw, what's new and what's changed from last year, and take a look at both the student and parent views. Talk a little bit about safety, things, again, we're doing behind the scenes, and things that we're enabling for you to help support us outside of school hours, and then a little bit of home setup and troubleshooting. And I'm just going to skim through this because we're going to go through this in sections, but this is our full agenda. So moving right along, let's begin with being the student. Here we go. All right, so we're going to start off with the device overview, a little navigation, and some login. So this is your chance to take out your device and make sure that you are able to sign in as your student. If you've opened your computer and there's something that's asking you for a password, you can refer to the password worksheet, which you hopefully have in front of you, but you should be able to log in with a password that has the following pattern. Your initials, so if I was a second grade student, Tatiana Griffin, I would be TG2021 with 2 exclamation points. That'll get you into the computer. And that pattern applies to all students. It's the initials, 2021, and 2 exclamation points to unlock the Chromebook. So in a nutshell, Chromebooks are essentially devices that just take kids directly to a managed Chrome browser. Yes, Jen?
I'm sorry to already have a question. Ronan told me to never click sign out at the bottom of the Chromebook. He said never click the sign out. But if we did click it, is that what we would do to get back in?
Yes.
Thank you.
You would simply, yes, you can click sign out. I think the teachers were trying to kind of encourage students to not have an extra step to join class. But yeah, the sign out will just sign you out of the Google account, and to sign in, it's just that initials 2021 to exclamation points.
Okay.
That should be on the password worksheet, and we may do a password worksheet check-in with the kiddos as well, just to make sure they have everything written down. Allison or Kara, do you want to jump in and
I was just going to say that I think third grade, we actually changed that login to third grade with the exclamation point.
Oh, you changed their Google accounts?
I think you and I did that during orientation, because I had some other students try the 2021 to exclamation point and it didn't work. But when they did the third grade, and I believe Jen or Mira, if you can confirm what you see,
You're right.
hand wrote it on there.
Got it. Thank you for that reminder.
Third grade exclamation. And you're right. In the very, very beginning, when we were trying to log in to something initially, you're right. The old one didn't work. So
yeah, it's third grade. And we hand wrote that in there on their sheets. And we also have electronic versions. So if that ever gets lost, just email Evan and I. We typed that all up too. So we can easily email it out to you.
Oh, can we just get the email of this? I mean, we have the sheet, but that would be great.
Yeah. That sounds good. Our next parent communication will include that. Go ahead, Tatiana.
Sure. I see there's a question from Ryan Lee.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it good for the computer to actually shut down?
So power cycling, yeah, that is something that, I'd say every couple of weeks or so, it's probably good to restart the computer. Chromebooks are a different kind of bird, but I think no matter what, you're totally right. I think what we're focusing on is these first couple of weeks kind of to keep the conditions as simple as possible. And then like over time, for example, probably in about a week or so, maybe we'll have students restart it and try and sign back in as like an activity between classes. Right, and we have a Zoom section later, but yeah, the password for all Zooms should be set to Wildcat77 with a capital W. Okay, so let's talk about the device. So these are Chromebook 500Es. That's what that means, is that they are touchscreen MacBooks. So you notice that this MacBook in the picture is actually, you can see that this Chromebook is actually flipped open. So this device can be used like a traditional computer. And we've introduced typing into second and third grades because we think it's important for kids to start building that skill set. There is a stylus. You'll notice in the top right, every child should have received a stylus that looks either blue, silver, yellow, or black. If you're wondering what that was, it is because these are touch screens and kids do have the ability to actually write in worksheets, and we'll be introducing more of that type of use of the Chromebook. But a lot of the kids, you might see that they have the Chromebook open and they're maybe like typing using the trackpad, but also tapping the screen because you can. These devices also have two cameras. They have one front-facing camera and one rear-facing camera. And I included a link at the bottom for people that want to dive deeper. Yes, Jen.
my stylus is missing. Will any stylus work?
Any stylus will work. Every child should have received one of the styluses in their bag. And if you don't have one, we can definitely send one home.
Ronan didn't get it, Tatiana, because you came on Friday and Ronan on Thursday.
Yes.
So
if any stylus will work, I have another one.
Sweet.
Cool. Okay.
The other thing you can check, Jen, is you notice how in this picture there's a little stylus. Some of these went missing on many devices, but if you look to the right side underneath the keyboard bottom, you might notice that if there's something you can kind of, if there's not an empty slot, there's actually a stylus kind of tucked in there that's built into the device. Not everyone will have them because some of them disappeared, but again, any stylus will work.
Okay.
If it's a hole, it means that there was a stylus there once.
And then I'm sorry, are you going to dive deeper into the camera thing? Because that was one of my questions.
Yes, that's going to be coming up as part of our Seesaw challenge. But yeah, totally, we'll talk about that. I thought this slide would be useful just because, again, with two cameras, sometimes kids have noticed that they accidentally switch from one camera to the other, or it's like stuck in one direction. It's because there in fact are two cameras. So when you flip this device open, you can use it like a tablet, right? Versus the camera that's facing you when you're using it like a traditional computer. I have it on the bottom right here that there's just a couple of like little things, like there's a volume button. I think that's on the right side. There's a power button on the right side, which actually took me a while to find, and just different types of inputs and ports. You can actually hardwire a printer, but I have a slide later on how to set up your home printer with these devices, because I know that that's come up. And again, this link below gives you kind of more of a deep dive into some features of the device. And so maybe what we can do now really quickly before we get into this next part, where I'm going to hand things off to the teachers, why doesn't everybody look at their Chromebook and see if you see a little white circle on the bottom left of the Chromebook? You can tap that. You should see a little circle which represents the menu. When you tap that little white circle that's kind of transparent in the middle, white outline, you should see something pop up, and one of the options is a camera. And I'm going to invite you to take a selfie so you can surprise your kids with this tomorrow for those that are here. And when you click the camera app, notice that just like with your cell phone or mobile device, there's like a symbol that lets you flip from one camera to the other. And go ahead and try and take a photo of yourself with the camera facing you, and then flip the camera and try taking a photo of something that is in your room or area.
Click on that left button, and then there's an arrow that faces up, and if you push that up, then I think the camera stuff opens.
Great. Any other questions on the camera from folks?
So there are only two cameras, one forward facing and one up, because
one forward facing and one back facing, and it'll be facing up because when you actually open the device all the way, then it actually will be facing the right way.
I see. Oh yeah.
There you go. All right.
Oh, yeah.
So when you fired up the computer, the distance learning site page should have just opened up automatically as one of the tabs. You'll notice that it was probably Seesaw in the distance learning site, which has the static schedule and then like the live daily schedule. If you scroll down, I'm just going to mention two things. Whether you're accessing this as a parent from your own device or the student's device, if you hover over any of these, which are Google Docs, there's a little button that appears in the top right that opens it in a new tab and lets you view it in its entirety or print it. The docs look different in different like browsers and devices, so you might need to scroll down within the doc itself or kind of scroll outside to get to the stuff below. And you notice here, I click the arrow because here in the top right, there should be a little like square with a arrow that lets you open it in a new tab. So at this point, I'm going to hand it off to Kara and Allison. Where'd you like me to go?
To the live schedule.
All right, let me go ahead and go
I see
back.
A couple of my parents. I know Macy's here. I see Scott. Thanks for joining.
All right, so we are headed to second grade's distance learning site.
So we can just, I think everybody's very familiar with the static schedule. It's the live daily that I just wanted to go over because believe it or not, there's a strategy.
Okay, so once again, like I mentioned, right, if you want to view this in its own tab, you can click this button and it opens it up so that it's printable if you prefer, but by all means, you're welcome to simply scroll. There's a little scrolly bar here and kind of scroll through. So yes, Kara.
So really straightforward. So this is, I've tried to pare it down from the original version just to make it user-friendly for all of us. My goal and Catherine's goal as well is obviously second graders are not going to be autonomous going through this schedule, but it is designed to have an adult, whomever is home or available to help the student navigate, but we're trying to get our students to really start to take that first step of ownership over their learning. So the links are all live. So obviously kids don't know how to quite tell time yet. That's where an adult would come in, but this is laid out every day the way we would lay out our day in the classroom that you wouldn't normally see. So everything is broken down into time periods that match the static schedule as well. So we obviously have our morning meeting. Everybody knows that plan. That's very smooth. I now do a little quick we do in the morning before they go into asynchronous time learning. So that's happening at 9:15. This is also really important because this is an opportunity, even though it says 5 minutes, I stay on Zoom for any students that may need extra help. They don't know where to go, they're not sure what to do next, or they just need a little bit more support. So this is where I stay on, and I will stay on for half an hour, whatever the student needs. So just know that before they begin those activities, there's time that they can get extra one-on-one support, or even a couple students I had today in the Zoom room, just to finalize and get them going and alleviate them asking the parents questions the parents might not have the answer to. We go into our breaks, and then we have our breakout rooms, direct teaching. Anything in pink is Catherine and myself teaching a live class. So if you're emailing either of us during these times, we can't really get back to you. Tech help is who needs to be emailed if there's a tech problem, because we're teaching. So we obviously can't be in 2 places at once. This is important. At 10 o'clock, you'll see group C and D for math have not gone to direct instruction, but they have an activity scheduled. Seesaw is the only platform I'm able to put a time frame on accessing. The reason is some students were working ahead. They weren't following the schedule, and the instruction is layered intentionally so a student is not jumping into an assignment without having that supported direct instruction to launch them. So that's really the main key point, is following the schedule is the most important thing. Getting the work done that day is not the most important thing. Fridays, we allow for extra time. I planned a much more scaled back day on Friday, allowing that afternoon time to have what we call in the classroom finish up work time. So anything that was unfinished, somebody needs more support, we have morning meeting, we have a social studies lesson, there's an independent work time, and then we go into office hours. And this is now student and teacher one-on-one. And this is where we're gonna check in. How are they doing this week? What still needs to be done? Any more lingering questions this week that we can help answer. And these are 15-minute back-to-back. If your student just wants to talk about that they're having a rough week because they're tired of being at home or it's smoky outside, that's perfectly fine. We are here to have one-on-one social, emotional, supportive time. So it doesn't have to be academic. It can be both. And we are available, especially at these times, but then during the breaks, we can always Zoom with your child or with both of you during the breaks. And I'm just trying to schedule that as it comes up. And then at the end of the day, and actually Tatiana, you might want to scroll up to today or tomorrow's schedule. The end of the day, we have put an end of day checklist. So this is a way for you, your tutor, a caregiver, and your student to say, here were the 4 things you were assigned today. How did you do? Do you need to finish one tomorrow? And it's just a way to condense all the stuff in the schedule to one end of day checklist. Here were all the activities that I was supposed to do on my own, not during instructional time. And this is pretty much as pared down as I can get it. I did, there's some gaps because I wanted the groups to be together. And a question that keeps coming up, yes, we are rotating groups, and I'm starting that next week. I just resorted all the groups, the student groups. So that is a constant, always assessing student needs, what's the content, who needs what specialized support, who do they work well with. So that is something that is constantly being assessed on basically a weekly basis. Catherine and I talk a lot to make sure that the students are in the right place with the right support, or if they need to be challenged, they're being challenged with a little bit of an extension lesson, which we often do during direct instruction, so we can monitor that. But that is basically our day. Every day is this, we go in order, and I really would like to stress that we go in order and students are not working ahead. Oftentimes they work ahead, and that's when mistakes happen because they haven't had the benefit of that direct instruction. And the direct instruction is so important because it's really our time with them and being able to answer in the moment and support them and engage them and see how they're doing. So I will take any questions.
Well, the first one, Kara, you answered, which was, are we going to change up the groups? Just in terms, I wasn't even thinking students. I was actually just thinking teachers, that I wanted her to have time with both of you guys, and just that was happening. So
That's part of it too. Yep.
addressing because I was going to email you about that.
Oh,
And then the other thing is just right now, my babysitter is actually working with Mila on this, but there's a lot of, she's got to, when things don't finish and that Friday rolls around, like saving it for the next day. When I was doing school with her in the spring, I was doing it, and I was very much about like, do what we can, leave the rest, do it in a day or two, then post it. Like I was very taking the attitude, long marathon, and so like what should I know it's second grade and I want her to get up to speed, but like what should be the expectation of like, if she doesn't finish something one day, do it the next, waiting that week, like where it, because a half hour, like this is probably private, like isn't enough for her to write or whatever. So like,
absolutely
not till Friday or?
Preferably when Friday rolls around, there's not a whole day of work for your student.
Right. No, I don't think so.
Right. So Friday, really, they have after, I believe, like 11, they're pretty free until a read aloud with the librarian. Yeah, it's a very fine balance. What's enough? What's too much?
Yeah.
And I'm always looking for that feedback. And that's where the one-on-ones are going to help us with the students. Last week it was helpful. The majority, about 99% of the parents said the workload was just right.
Okay.
So I tried to actually keep it pretty close, but also we are needing to get into academics and
yeah, and I'll just speak to that a little. This is Catherine. And last year we were just sort of trying it out, and we weren't strict about what needed to be turned in. But now we're in full school, and if they were at school, we would be teaching all day, and then actually they have homework at night. Yeah. So we do have some level of expectation that they are completing these assignments at some point.
Right.
Basically within the week is the expectation.
That was just more my question, is like within the week, within the day, like.
Within the week is reasonable, and especially if a student is starting to struggle, we want to know sooner rather than later, and we will hop on Zoom and do whatever we can to support.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And again, it sounds like these office hour times on Fridays, even though they're officially scheduled to be meeting with the child, but if you have any other questions, I bet you can kind of drop in and say hi, since the teachers are there with like
actually,
a special
Tatiana, we are trying to honor that it's one-on-one time with us.
Okay, sorry about that.
We will schedule with a parent separately. This is part of our relationship building with the student because we're not in class all the time.
Got it.
So
okay.
This is the way, but thank you for bringing, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Last week was a feedback week, everybody check in, but sometimes students are apt to open up a bit more if it's just the two of us.
Got it.
And then we can really gauge where they might need really specialized, a little bit of help here, a little bit of push there. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for clarifying. All right, Allison, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you, third grade parents, for sitting there for second grade, and thank you, second grade parents, for sitting here as I run through, and I will try to be quick. I want to be mindful of your time. So for what Tatiana was mentioning about the website being kind of tricky to navigate, what I did for third grade is I actually had your students bookmark the live daily lesson plan. So it should be at the top of their bookmark bar. So I've been telling your students that's probably the best place for you. And I've noticed a lot more students using that tool now. So for them, they either go to what they would see, which is school tools and sites here, and then it'll drop down on their Chromebook and it'll open up the website. However, I've asked them bookmark it and it should be in your bookmark bar. So it should be on here on their Chromebook. If not, it means that during morning meeting, they didn't do it, but we can always remind them. So they should be bookmarking it and opening it up. And I'm kind of just going through how your student should do this each day to hopefully help. So they should be opening up the live daily lesson plan that we have here. And then here we have our times, always in yellow on the side here to kind of help. For you, and the students, we have done pink is what we do, green is what group A does, hi Ronan, and group B is blue. So that way to kind of just help the students know what they should be doing at those times, because if group A is in a class, the other group might need to be doing a different assignment. So for your students, we have longer morning meetings actually. So second grade has 15 minutes, ours are 30. So therefore what we do embedded in our morning meeting every day is we go through the lesson plan every single day. And before kids leave, they're asked, what are you doing now, group A? What are you doing, group B? To kind of check in and make sure they know at least their next step. Students are also always welcome in morning meeting to hang back and ask any questions they have. So we're trying to embed that support in there, as Kara mentioned. So your students have class meeting, and then they have body break. And then again, the green is that track for group A, the blue is the track for group B. So again, as Kara was mentioning, it's super important that kids are following that schedule because we have videos that they watch before, and usually there's a to-do. So it'll say, start your writing, and then when they come into writing, we can do the second part of that lesson. So just having them follow it is really helpful. And like Kara said, that's the most important part. So I'm not gonna read each single thing for you, but I'm just gonna let you know kind of what that looks like. And then the only thing that will look different on Fridays is we do have office hours. So this last Friday, we did a group office hour setting because we wanted kids to share in a group that it's tricky right now, our first week, right? So we wanted to normalize how tricky tech can be and some of the oops and mistakes that were coming up by doing group one-on-one check-ins. This week, it's gonna be actually one-on-one with us. The first week was really to just normalize and hear from each other and know we're all in this together, and let them not feel alone. And now we're gonna do one-on-one and have that one-on-one time to build with them and also just support them. And then what we've done, as Kara's mentioned around assignments is, and something that you can also look at the end of every single day, whether dependent on the schedule, whether it's before a specialist or after with the times, we have 30 minutes at the end of the day for students to catch up on any work. And there's a document that we are constantly updating. So I'm gonna pull that up for you to just take a quick look so you can kind of see. So last week we just had it as a checklist, and now we're actually writing in what the students need to do and what we've already checked in about. So as we wait for it to load, you'll take a look. And again, my apologies as my internet is slow. So what we do is put in the assignment. That morning, they can see which assignments need to be turned in. And then as they're completing them, we're updating it. So the student at the end of the day can look at this and go, okay, I haven't turned in this or this. And then they need to finish those assignments. And you'll see here, it says, if you have completed the assignments above, do the extension assignment below. So a student does have work during this time. If they're not finishing up assignments, that's their to do during those 30 minutes. If they've done it, there's always an activity that we change every day for them to do. So we're really showing them, we're checking your work. We're gonna hold you accountable, but we're also gonna be flexible. There was an assignment that we had up here for, I think, 2 days. Some kids went through and finished it. And after that, we said, all right, now it's time to remove it because we don't want your work piling up and you having the stress of that. So as it goes, we're able to adjust it. Also, we had one on Monday that we got to take off halfway through the day because all the kids did it. So it's that factor of just them being able to check with themselves, build that executive function and go back and know what they've completed, what we've already graded, and what they need to finish. And then I want to go back to this because I know we're not going to have time for it today, but it is in here for you. If you wanted to try out, I added the optional parent tech orientation to that live lesson plan. There's an activity that I've already assigned. So this is something that if you want to do on your student's Chromebook, you can go in and play around. It's kind of fun. I have you like taking a silly photo for your kid, sharing a video of things you appreciate about them. So I thought it would be a really good connection point, but also some practice for you to try to follow these directions, try out the tools and see what happens. So I'm going to pass it back to Tatiana. I sped through. Any questions, just let us know.
Stuff like this. But I think it's important to note that on these student devices, there's a school tools and sites folder. And if you tap on it, you'll notice that there are in fact links to all the things that are on the password worksheet and many of the tools that we're using. And I'm going to check the Zoom links as Sharon had mentioned, just to make sure they're working. But you'll notice like Brain Pop and Epic and a couple other things are on there. In particular, it's really important to click the iExcel link at School Tools and Sites because we have a special login page that isn't the main iExcel site. So if you encounter any issues or maybe your child is trying to get to a site and they're not getting there, make sure you're tapping on School Tools and Sites and choosing it from here. Many of their passwords are automatically saved, and we set that up while we were in person. And also, this is just a copy of the password worksheet. I have a link to it in case people want to reprint it. And again, these are aligned. And the Google account, when there's a Google button, you're probably going to want to click it because it's an all access pass to all of our subscriptions. When we do return to like in-person learning or hybrid learning in a couple of weeks, you know, this will still be useful because while the kids are at school doing their things during the school day, the devices will still be going home. So I think it's just important no matter what that we, you know, are in the know about this stuff. So Seesaw, you know, for those of you that were here last year, Seesaw is our learning management system. So as Allison mentioned, there is a homework challenge for you guys to maybe complete if you want to get oriented with Seesaw. That's available through the Seesaw website. You can get to that by going to School Tools and Sites on your child's device if you'd like to follow along. And we are going to be rolling out the parent app formally. So there's a Seesaw app that the kids are using, right? There's also a parent app that once we go back to in-person learning, we'll be using more actively to give you guys some kind of videos or pictures or kind of insights into some of the things the kids are doing in the classroom. But for now, you know, once we're ready for that, we'll do another session. But for now, I just wanted to, and we won't watch this video, but I encourage you to do so. And this kind of gives you an overview of the purpose of Seesaw as a learning journal, as a documentation tool, and just some of the features of it that I think are interesting for folks that want to know a little more. What's changed with Seesaw from last year? First of all, we're using the Google sign-in and not the QR code. And if you notice, if you're signed into your child's computer, whether you're second or third grade, if you tap on their name on the top left, you'll see there's actually a list of classes. This was mostly for the specialists and also for some subject areas, but instead of having one giant class per grade level, there are now different containers for different subjects. So Kathy would be posting in art, right? Or Harriet might be posting in music, or math assignments might go in math. And to switch between classes, you're simply tapping the icon in the top left and clicking through. You'll also notice that if there's a little red circle, this usually means that there's an activity or an assignment or maybe a reply from your teacher. So keep an eye on that. And just like the students can create videos, photos, drawings, so can the teachers. So they're all kind of using a similar interface. And your one clue, if you're ever stuck, is always look for a little checkbox or a done button. There's a green button, kind of they color coded it. So as you're going through recording, finishing, clicking done, drawing, you're always looking for a green button in the top. Now, I just want to be mindful, we are going to go a couple minutes over. If folks do need to go, I totally get it. And you're welcome to watch the recorded session. I did want to talk a little bit about just what we're doing behind the scenes to keep your kids safe, and also encourage you to set up the GoGuardian parent app that we have shared with all of you. So what this means is in the background, we're running a Google Safe Search. So anytime kids are going into Google or looking for things, oh, there it is. Yep. So Sharon's sharing the parent app that's been set up. And happy to do a follow-up session if folks are interested. But what's cool about that is it lets you kind of see a history of what your kids are looking at, disable the internet on their Chromebooks if you don't want them to be going online later. You can block certain sites. And there's 3 pieces to the GoGuardian app. I run the filtering, the internet filtering on 2nd through 5th. The teachers aren't yet in 2nd and 3rd, but may run it during class time to help kids stay focused, kind of more actively with little screens. And then there's the parent piece. So just to kind of let you know, we're also running ad blockers so the kids aren't getting those random ads that might be embedded in school sites. We have Google Safe Browsing enabled for K-8. So even if kids do look for something that's a little bit off kilter, it's filtering those really kind of, you know, adult things. It's kind of keeping it safe and kid friendly. So we have YouTube set at the most restrictive setting. I believe we even have YouTube disabled right now for 2nd and 3rd, and we'll turn it on as needed. And then we are filtering the internet even further with GoGuardian. Okay. So again, during class time, the teachers may eventually use this with their students, but this is the part that you all received an email about. So this is the parent app. So you should have all received an email. You should download the GoGuardian parent app, as you saw Sharon showed us. And you want to make sure to open that email on your phone. If you can, you're going to get a confirmation email once you start up the app. And you want to open up that confirmation email on your phone if you can. Otherwise, if you do it on your computer, there's like a PIN code, but it's pretty straightforward. It kind of walks you through. And if you encounter any glitches or I accidentally assigned you to the wrong student, please email us at Tech Help so we can fix it. So the other piece, right, that I would definitely wanted to just mention is we disabled it temporarily, but we have this thing called screen shader, which essentially changes the color of the screen so it's less blue as it gets later in the day. And that's really nice for circadian rhythms and making sure that kids are naturally kind of biologically starting to taper off, even if they're using the devices later in the evening. For the older kids, we have an app called Stay Focused, a Chrome extension that lets them set their own time limits. But with the GoGuardian parent app on the Chromebooks, you have the ability to set some schedules and some time limits from your perspective. We do a lot of the filtering during the school day, but we've now we still continue to filter, but we've opened it up so that outside of school hours, you guys can add extra restrictions as you see fit. So then on the slides, I also have a short video with a GoGuardian parent app demo. It's like a 1-minute video. I'm going to share this with all of you after our session, so you're welcome to watch that video. But that's a slide with just some quick instructions and tips. And finally, just a couple of quick things about troubleshooting. Things like internet signal, connecting a printer, general computer issues. And again, the slides have a lot of details I'm going to skim, but I encourage you to kind of take a look at the slides after our session for just some more suggestions. So I mentioned some of this at the PA meeting last Friday. Thanks again, Jen, for inviting me. So, you know, typically things come in here, number 6, through the internet, come through a cable modem, which is a piece of hardware, goes to your wireless box. And then things are either wired or wireless. For the most part, we're very wireless, but things that might happen is if you're too far away from this box, your signal might be worse, right? So if your kid's not having trouble with Zoom, you might want to actually have them move physically closer to the Wi-Fi box or hook up a cable from the Chromebook to the Wi-Fi box. And if you're having those types of issues, like just send an email to Tech Help and we can do like a mini consultation. If you have a lot of people all Zooming at once, there's definitely a couple other things we can do, but wiring in is one way to help with that. Upgrading your wireless router is another one. One thing that's really, these are steps, but at a high level, if your internet's seeming wonky in general, literally find the cable modem box and this box and literally take the power cables out of the back, wait 30 seconds and plug them all back in. Sometimes that's just enough to like get things back on track. If you have a big house and you feel like your internet signal gets weaker, I mentioned this last Friday, there's these things called Wi-Fi boosters. I like the TP-Link brand, but you can set them up with an app and then be able to extend and magnify your internet in those dark, dusty corners where maybe the internet does not flow as smoothly for various reasons. Here's just a picture of how you might connect a computer to the back of a wireless box to help with video. Okay, we're almost done here. For printing, there are just a couple of steps involved to print from your Chromebooks. One is you could simply try to print the way you normally might, and then next to destination, there's a down arrow. And again, these are steps you can follow while you try this. But your Chromebook might detect the printer automatically when you just try to print something. You just have to choose from destinations that it finds. And then if you want to add it kind of outside of printing, you can click on the time or tap on the time on the bottom right and go to the settings, and under the advanced settings, you can look for printers that are on your network. And just like with most things, if things aren't working or something's wonky, please go ahead and restart that device. Again, the power button's on the right side here of the keyboard, and 99% of the time we find that most issues are resolved by turning it off and turning it back on again. Okay, so the final slide that I will show you, and I encourage you to check out, but just a couple of tips and tricks for Zoom troubleshooting. When the kids fire up the Chrome extension on their Chromebook, they're gonna click join a meeting. It'll often already have the meeting ID or link pre-populated. because they're clicking on school tools and sites and choosing that teacher's Zoom link. You just want to make sure that when they put their name, they're not calling themselves Wildcat77, but they're actually putting in their name. And, you know, after a little bit of time, that becomes more second nature. For the most part, if you're finding that your kid is maybe has the camera facing the wrong way when they fire up Zoom, in the bottom left corner, where you might see it on your Zoom too, there's a little arrow, and you can tap on that arrow and switch between the front or the back facing camera. So that's a place where you might be able to find the cameras to switch between them in Zoom. And here's just a list of a couple of things that kids can do in Zoom. And I'm kind of going through and joining classes to see if anything's wrong physically with the hardware of the computers. But for the most part, if you discover something weird, just do email tech help, because we will be able to set up a one-on-one session to troubleshoot. So again, there's a couple more tips and tricks. I'm going to fix up that slide. I encourage you to take a look at that. And there's some how-to videos that I've linked to as well, if you want to get more familiar with Zoom. So again, thank you for those of you that joined today. I do encourage you to take advantage of our help desk system, because that's how we get things done. And invite you to use that as well if you have some ideas, some suggestions, or something that's vexing you. We are here to help, and the dust is settling with our lean but mighty tech team of 1.5 people. So before we break, any final burning questions that folks might have that have come up for you? It looks like Jen has a question.
I'm sorry, I forgot all the questions. When using Seesaw and you're supposed to take a picture of something, how do you flip? I can't figure out how to take it like you would flip the camera around. So do I have to go to that circle like you showed and use that camera, or is there something?
I think the trick is there's two ways to do it. One is I will double check how you do it within Seesaw itself. But I think the best bet for now, Jen, is to go to the camera itself on the computer and flip it there first the right way, and then go to Seesaw, and it should read the camera in whatever direction it's facing. Let me know how that goes, and I'll investigate as well. Any other questions? Mira, I saw you maybe had your hand raised. Oh, you're muted.
You're a little bit too. So when we go back live, it sounds like the kids will be taking their computers every day to school and back.
That's what it's looking like at this point. Do you have any concerns or questions on that?
I just didn't know. I missed Bill's coffee, and I'm probably behind on reading. I'm like,
well, I'll defer to Allison and other teachers in the room. But what I will say is the reason we got those like blue cases, all of you should have the blue cases with the charger microfiber cloth. That's, you know, we were anticipating the eventuality that we would be transitioning back to in-person learning, and the devices would be traveling back and forth. And we've enabled the GoGuardian parent app, so that gives you guys a little bit more comfort in, you know, being able to, we're already filtering internet, but gives you that ability to help with monitoring devices at home. You might just decide you take the device home, the kid comes home with their device, and you just put it in a drawer. You know, some folks, I encourage you actually to collect devices, you know, around 10 p.m. if you can, just to kind of build in that, you know, good habit. Allison, did you want to say anything on that?
I actually don't have the correct answer for that in full transparency. I don't know that that's been communicated to us yet. Kara, Catherine, just let us know if you did. But Mira, you had mentioned sending out the passwords. So I just added a note to my Post-it of checking in on that Chromebook piece. And then we can also put that in that communication too.
Yeah, and I get that you guys are, just let us know what we need to do, because I wasn't sure, like, does this schedule go out the window and it's back to like normal, or it's kind of a mix? Like, just let us know.
We will totally let you know. We just got the draft of even what that schedule looks like probably an hour ago. So that's but I'm glad you brought that up, because my instinct might be different than others. Like mine would be, don't do it, because you're going to need it at school. And if you forget it one day, you have a lot of Chromebooks on hand. But the other option is if we had to close and, you know, make sure you had those devices. So I think that we just need to check in, and we'll definitely make that clear.
Okay, great.
By the way, Myra, Bill did not discuss that at all on the call the other night.
No.
About bringing Chromebooks home or what the schedule
is. It is
on, like, you know, some of us.
It's in progress.
Leveraging a sitter, we're trying to like leave them alone, but then sometimes they need help. So whatever, it's a lot, you know, and I think everyone's doing a pretty good job, but it's a lot to keep up.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining, folks. I know, Sharon, you have a question, but if other folks feel like they've found themselves in a good place, you are welcome to go. But otherwise, you're welcome to hang out for a couple minutes before our 4-5 meeting starts.
Thank you, Tatiana.
Thank you,
Oh,
Tatiana.
yeah.